Meantime, Trump visited Capitol Hill yesterday for the first time since the January 6th attacks. While he was there, he called Milwaukee a, quote, horrible city. Milwaukee hosting the RNC next month. You were the first to report about Trump's Milwaukee comments. What was the context around them?
Well, that's a source of a lot of debate, Jose. It's really interesting. The people who came out of the meeting, and you could see they call me fake news Jake Sherman. I take issue with that, but nonetheless, listen. The people came out of that meeting and said, first, he never said that. Of course, he did say it. We had many sources who said it, and we know for a fact he said it. They first said he didn't say that. Then they softened. They said, well, he was talking about voting rights. He was or voting laws. He was talking about crime. And then the convention spokesman in Milwaukee said, actually, he was talking about the location for protests in Milwaukee at the Republican convention. And then Brian Stile, a Republican from Wisconsin who chairs the House Administration Committee, came out after he said he did not say that. He went on television in Wisconsin and said, well, he said that, but he was talking about the functions of Milwaukee and some of the issues in Milwaukee, not the city and not the people. So you could see this, Jose, is a really useful reminder of how Republicans act when Donald Trump is around. He says jump, they say how high. They have no problem twisting the truth for him. And in fact, they're eager and willing to do it because Trump absolutely said that, and almost privately, by the way, a lot of Republicans came to me after that and said, this is actually how a lot of Republicans in Wisconsin feel. So a bizarre episode, but a lot of the other stuff he said was bizarre as well.
Again, I encourage all of you, if you don't speak Spanish fluently, to go and check up the term cantinfleando, which is based on Cantinflas, an extraordinary Mexican comic who talked about how you could say one thing and then say something else and not mean it and not say it and say it, but I didn't. And cantinfleando fits perfectly in 2024. Jake Sherman, thank you very much for being with us. Joining us now with more on this, Brendan Buck, former press secretary to House Speakers Boehner and Ryan, and Jennifer Palmieri, former communications director in the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton's campaign. They're both MSNBC political analysts. Great seeing you both. So, Brendan, the front page of the Milwaukee Sentinel this morning, let's take a look at it. It reads, Trump, Milwaukee, horrible. Milwaukee, of course, it's in a state that's highly competitive. In 2016, Trump beat Clinton in Wisconsin by just 20,000 votes or so. In 2020, Biden flipped it by the same margin. What is Trump thinking he can accomplish with this comment, you think?
Well, I hope he wasn't trying to accomplish anything positive for himself. Certainly not a good idea to attack the largest population center of an important swing state. Look, I think there's something going on here. I'm curious as to what his thinking is as it relates to the convention. Does he plan to not show up to the convention, as NBC is reporting his planning? For whatever reason, is it because of legal action? Is it because he has something in his head from years ago that he doesn't like this city for some reason? A bizarre thing, but usually something that comes out of his mouth, there's something that is stuck at the back of his head. There's something to it. So I'm curious what this is, because otherwise you wouldn't attack not just a swing city, but the city that's hosting your own convention, where there's lots of people who are volunteering and spending lots of time and money to put on a good show for you. And to throw them under the bus like that was remarkable. Yeah,
I mean, Jen, what are your thoughts on this?
I think he doesn't want to go back to a city that he lost. He lost Wisconsin. Apparently, so some of the reporting I saw from the meeting that Jake was talking about said that I think the Trump campaign even said this, is that when he was talking about the crime and election fraud in Milwaukee, when he said that it was a horrible place. And so I suspect he doesn't like to go where he's not a winner. I bet he doesn't want to go back to Wisconsin because he lost there. It's one of the three sort of the formerly blue wall states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, where Biden is tied or in some polls beating him in Wisconsin. So I think he doesn't want to go there. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah. I mean, Jennifer, in response to all this, Biden, the campaign, ruled out Biden tweeted a photo of him with the Milwaukee Bucks, writing, "I happen to love Milwaukee." Is this something you think is going to make a difference? Could this have some weight?
It's the kind of thing that really sits badly with people. I do. It's the kind of thing. It is. It's always hard. Joe Biden's biggest problem in this campaign is breaking through the Trump noise. And this is a time where Trump said something that everybody gets. It's offensive and it hurts the pride of people from not just people from Milwaukee, but I think that the state as a whole. And it's the kind of thing that's it's sticky. It's the kind of thing that if he does go to the convention, it'll be repeated constantly. And yeah, I think it matters.
Brendan Buck and Jennifer Palmieri, thank you both so very much. Appreciate it.